Hey guys, welcome to another Gigabyte P34gV2 video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at gameplay performance in Battlefield 4 with the overclocked GTX 860M. So right now we are running on a core clock of plus 290 MHz, bringing the total core clock to 1387 MHz. And for voltage, we're running at about 1.1 volts under load, so we're still within the safe limits of this card. You can also see the FPS on the top right corner, and we're playing Siege of Shanghai right now. And the way I'm recording this is using shadow play, so that does mean we are going to be losing about 5 to 6, up to actually 7 frames while recording. So that transfers over to meaning that if you see anything above 53 frames per second, really it means you're going to be getting 60 frames per second when not recording and actually playing the game. I'll show you my graphics settings in just a bit. Graphics settings I run at is most ultra with some things on high and some things turned off. Now I'm not sure how the quality is coming out in the recording, but combined with the really great color of this monitor, this game just looks absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to try and get into some action here, and hopefully you guys can see the FPS fluctuate a bit. So you can see right there we got a dip to 53 frames. So that would mean if you were playing, it'd actually still be holding about 60 consistently. Again, it's just because I'm recording with shadow play that I'm getting that couple of frames that are lost. If you see any choppy gameplay also, I do have shadow play recording at 30 frames actually, and the reason for that is YouTube only plays at 30 frames anyway, so it'd just be wasted memory really to record at 60 frames. So you can see as I come flying through here how nice this game really looks and how good the draw distance is, and we're holding 60 frames consistently on a 21mm laptop. So it's very impressive, that's for sure. Unheard of up until a couple months ago. When people hear gaming laptop, they think of the big 2-inch laptops, nothing like this. So I think now's a good time to show you guys my graphics settings. So you can see I'm running obviously at 1080p, and I have motion blur off, and that's just personal preference. And the graphics settings you can see here, pretty much everything's on ultra except for effects and post-process. Now the reason I have effects on high is because when they're on ultra, when getting in some intense explosions, sometimes it'll drop a bit, and really visually I don't see much of a difference. Post-process, kind of the same thing there. The quality difference is like, I don't know, to me it's like not even, I can't even notice the difference if it's on high or ultra, and it's usually about 2 to 3 frames gained, so I said hey, why not. Anti-aliasing deferred, that is a huge hit on FPS, so I always leave that off, and on a 14-inch screen really it does not matter at all. Anti-aliasing post, I just have that maxed out, and ambient occlusion makes a minor visual difference, but it costs about 5 frames, so I just have that turned off. And if you guys want, if you want to compare with other videos, I'll show you the settings when they're all ultra, just if you're curious. Alright, so I think I'm going to turn up the graphics settings actually. We're going to go all the way on ultra. So this is something many actual full-out desktop gaming PCs struggle with. And you can see the frames, I wouldn't consider this playable to me, just because I really like having 60 frames. But for some people, anything over 30 is playable. So here's what this Ultra would look like for frames, really right about 40. And again, because this is recorded with shadow play, that does mean when you're not recording, you can expect about 5 to 6 frames more. So right now, for example, we're at 45. Realistically, if you're just gaming, it'd be at 50 frames. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what it would look like if we ran Ultra, but with the MSAA turned to off, which is actually a really popular setting. It's what I used to run on my gaming desktop as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn off the anti-aliasing deferred. And there you go, you can see the frames. So still right about 60, but keep in mind this is not in action, so when in action it actually does drop quite a bit. So for that, that's kind of the reason why I turn off HBAO and the ambient occlusion. And if I was to run on high, obviously I'd be holding 60 as well, so there's not much point in showing you guys that. So I'm going to take this opportunity to show you guys the difference in effects. So here's this fire here when it's on Ultra, and you can see the frames are about 48-50, so in-game 55. And I'm going to go ahead and turn down the graphics setting to the way I run it at. So I turn off this, and I turn off the effects too high and post-process too high. And hopefully we should see higher FPS. So there you go, now we're holding consistently 60, and to me, I'm not sure how it's coming out on your screen, but to me there's absolutely no difference visually. I mean, this burning car looks just as great when effects are on high versus on Ultra. So that to me is not much of a difference. I think it's more of the long range effect, so for example that fire you see down there and that smoke, but again to me it looks just fine. So I'm going to play this map a little more, and then I'm going to actually show you guys a closer map, probably Operation, not Operation Metro, what's the other one called? Can't remember right now, but the really close quarters one. I'll show you guys that. Alright guys, so I think this just about concludes our video for this map for Battlefield 4. So you can see pretty much almost maxed out. We're getting about 60 frames per second with the overclock. Now as for temperature, I'll take a look at that in just a second. I am running, however, just so you know, on a cooling pad. I used the Notepel X Slim. I got it for 10 bucks on Newegg. I highly recommend it. It doesn't just drop the temperatures on the die, so on the actual CPU and GPU, but it drops the temperature of the whole laptop. Because most of the time, it's not the CPU or GPU that'll fail. It'll be a capacitor or some other minor component that just wasn't designed for that temperature. Because yes, your CPU is designed to run at up to 100 degrees, but the little components around it are definitely not. So the cooling pad just kind of tries and keeps the overall temperature of the laptop significantly lower. And for fans, I always have them set on auto, and the reason for that is when setting them on turbo, they do blow harder. Yeah, I just said that. They do ventilate more, I'll rephrase, and it actually only gives you about 1 or 2 degrees colder temperature. So to me, I just don't see it as being something that's worth it. So I'm going to go ahead and transition to the other map. So here we are on Operation Locker. Now the graphics settings are the same as before, so you can take a look at them real quick. They're mostly on ultra with the effects and post-process on high. Now I was going to show you last video, but unfortunately I wasn't able to because Shadowplay doesn't record desktop. But the temperatures for our last video were about 81 to 82 degrees Celsius on average, with the max being 83 degrees Celsius. Now again, this is on a cooling pad, so without the cooling pad it would probably be 86 on average. And keep in mind, this is still safe for the graphics card, as its maximum safe one is about 90 degrees Celsius. So I think there's also a video with this map with the 870M, and they're about equal frames. So you can really kind of get an idea of how overclockable this Maxwell 860M really is. I mean, I did a 3D Mark 11 recently, and actually ended up beating the score of the 870M. I scored, I think, a couple of points higher than it did. So really, for best bang for buck, I'd say the 860M Maxwell is your best bet, because that 870M, unfortunately, only comes in Kepler, so it's going to be nowhere near as overclockable as, say, the 860M or the 850M, both of which are Maxwell. So for your mid-range card, best bang for buck, really, I think this is really your best choice. Now, just bringing up another point, actually, a competitor to this card, or this laptop, sorry, is the Razer Blade, which I'm sure you've heard of. Now, the Razer Blade does have the 870M Kepler, and as you can see, I'm pretty much matching that performance. However, the Razer Blade is significantly more expensive. I think 600 or even 700 it would come to. And it actually is a bit heavier than the P34gV2, but it is 2mm thinner. So you gotta ask yourself, kind of, is that 2mm thinner really worth the $600 that you're paying for? It also does have a really high resolution screen, but you're really not going to be able to do anything in that resolution screen with that 870M other than desktop and undemanding programs such as that. And just another reminder, anytime you see over 53 frames, remember that when you're actually playing, it'll be 60 frames. So I think I'm going to go ahead and turn up the graphics settings all the way to ultra, just to kind of see what the frames would look like. They're probably going to be pretty high, just because this map isn't that demanding, to be honest. But we'll take a look. So it looks like we're at about 50. Looks like to be on average, which transfers to about 55 if you weren't actually recording. And we do have some drops, I think, down to 40 even. So that's still acceptable. 45 is still okay. And this is something most actual gaming PCs struggle with, so it's really impressive what we're doing. So let's go ahead and actually turn off the anti-aliasing deferred and see what our frames would look like. So we're probably going to be holding about 60, it looks like. Even there we dropped to 53, but remember, because we're recording, that would actually mean 60 frames in game. So you could run it like this, but just changing the graphics settings every time you switch maps, kind of a pain. So I just kind of run it all the time on the settings I showed you guys before, which I'm actually going to transfer over to right now. Just because I think that's the best balance of quality and frames. So there we go. Then afterwards, I'll go to the desktop again and check the temperature for you guys and let you guys know what the average temperature was. I expect it to be about the same, or maybe a bit lower as last time, because again this map is not as demanding, so a bit less of a GPU load with this map.
Finish him! Fatality!
So I think this just about concludes our video. So we can see with the 860M Maxwell, when we overclock, we pretty much matched the 870M performance. Like I said earlier, in the 3D Mark I actually beat the card. And we can see in-game performance, we're definitely matching it. So in conclusion, with this laptop, when you have it overclocked, you can definitely run Battlefield 4 pretty much on Ultra all the way at a consistent 60 frames per second. All of this is on a 21mm laptop that was $1,500 US. So I went ahead and checked the temperatures on this map. So it looks like we were averaging at about 80 degrees Celsius, and the max we hit was 81. So it is, like I said, a bit lower than the previous map, and again that's probably because it's just less demanding. So this concludes our video, guys. Thanks for watching. We're gonna have more videos coming up, probably with Far Cry 3, as well as some feature games like Far Cry 4 and GTA 5 as soon as they come out. So if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. I'll really appreciate it, and you guys will see when I upload those new videos. So thanks for watching, guys.